you. I will seek you in the morning, and I will learn to walk in your ways. And step by step you'll lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. Oh God, you are my God, and I will ever praise you. I will seek you in the morning, and I will learn to walk in your ways. And step by step you'll lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. And I will follow you all of my days. And I will follow you all of my days. And step by step you'll lead me, and I will follow you all of my days. Great is the Lord, he is holy and just. By his power we trust in his love. Great is the Lord, he is faithful and true. By his mercy he proves his love. Great is the Lord and worthy of glory. Great is the Lord and worthy of praise. Great is the Lord, now lift up your voice. Now lift up your voice. Great is the Lord. Great is the Lord. Great is the Lord, he is holy and just. By his power we trust in his love. Great is the Lord, he is faithful and true. By his mercy he proves his love. Great is the Lord and worthy of glory. Great is the Lord and worthy of praise. Great is the Lord, now lift up your voice. Now lift up your voice. Great is the Lord. Great is the Lord. Great are you, Lord, and worthy of glory. Great are you, Lord, and worthy of praise. Great are you, Lord, I lift up my voice. I lift up my voice. Great are you, Lord. 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 Praise to the Lord, the Almighty, the King of creation. Oh, my soul, praise him, for he is thy health and salvation. All ye who hear, now to his temple draw near. Join me in glad adoration. Praise to the Lord, who o'er all things so wondrously reigneth. Shieldeth thee under his wings, yea, so gently sustaineth. Hast thou not seen how thy desires have been granted in what he ordaineth? Praise to the Lord, who doth prosper thy work and defend thee. Surely his goodness and mercy here daily attend thee. Ponder anew what the Almighty can do, if with his love.
All right. As we said a couple weeks ago, before we took the break for the holidays, Kevin was initially going to be starting in here, and but end up being going to be gone 2 out of the 4 Wednesdays. So just instead of him having to chop it up, I just said, well, we'll just teach a few more weeks out of Mark. So that's what we're doing. A couple weeks ago, we finished with the rich young ruler. there at the end of Mark chapter 10. So we're just kind of taking some stories that I think are fascinating about discipleship, about who Jesus is. And so we'll do that for a few more weeks and look at the Passion story a little bit here as well. So again, Mark is concerned with the identity of Jesus and what does discipleship mean as a result of that. And so he strips everything down to the bare bones. He's fast-paced, quick. He doesn't have a lot of details, long teaching sections. That's not Mark. And so it's a great little gospel to study, and especially to kind of be someone who doesn't know much about Scripture and the Bible. It's a great introduction because it's not bogged down as much as some of maybe John or Luke or Matthew in that sense, as far as details and background. So let's look at Mark chapter, again, it's who is Jesus? What does discipleship look like? So we're going to be finally we're in Jerusalem. So we've made Jesus is coming into Jerusalem. He will, this is coming into the last week of his life here. And his ministry is coming to an end, obviously. And so he is, he's come back to Jerusalem, and thus begins the Passion Week. Passion we get from Latin, suffering. And so, but the familiar account here, let's look at Mark chapter 11 of the triumphal entry real quick. We're going to look at a couple of little sections here. And if you've got questions, or jump in there. And if I'm not planning to, spend forever on each one of these. But as they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage and Bethany at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, "Go to the village ahead of you, and just as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. And if anyone asks you, 'Why are you doing this?' say, 'The Lord needs it, and we'll send it back here shortly.' They went and found a colt outside the street, tied to a doorway. As they untied it, some people standing there asked, 'What are you doing untying that colt?' They answered as Jesus had told them to do. And the people let them go. When they brought the colt to Jesus and threw their cloaks over it, he sat on it. Many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches they had cut in the fields. Those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, 'Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the coming kingdom of our father David. Hosanna in the highest heaven.' Jesus entered Jerusalem and went into the temple courts. He looked around at everything, but since it was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. Again, I'm not teaching the proper Passion Week. That would be a whole quarter I would want to do. 13 weeks, we would just study the last week of Jesus' life. But Jesus will not spend the night in Jerusalem. He will go back outside the city to Bethany. And you remember who lives in Bethany? Mary and Martha and Lazarus. And so he will stay just a couple of miles outside the city. He'll come back and commute each day. And so this is on the day after the Sabbath. So he comes in on Sunday, probably late Sunday afternoon, and they're gonna have this triumphal entry. And he'll come around the temple, look around. It's getting dark, so they're going to go back to Bethany. And so that begins the Passion Week. And so, again, I'm not teaching the class from that, trying to, that kind of a detail. But what I want you to see here is it's a fulfillment of Zechariah 9 and verse 9. This was all God's plan, all God's doing. Everything that has happened has all been for the plan and from the plan and purposes of God. Nothing is happenstance. Nothing is chance. Everything is timing. Everything is God's purpose and plan. Jesus would often he would tell people not to tell who he is because it wasn't the right time and the right way. And so everything has to be according to God's plan. This has all been prophesied. There's over 300 prophecies that speaks in some way or shape or fashion about the life, the ministry of Jesus Christ. 300. And I could bore you with the mathematical examples where they have shown to even one person to fulfill one of those, it's astronomical. And so you have the Old Testament, that God would provide a deliverer to the nations. The promise was first made in Genesis chapter 3. God solidified that promise with a covenant to an old man and his wife, Abram and Sarai. From that, his plan was to make a nation out of that family, and out of that nation would come one from the house of the tribe of Judah, from the house of David, who would be that Messiah. All of that, every detail in between, was all God's purpose and plan in doing. And how anyone can look at that, and it's just mind-boggling, the evidence that is for the case for Christ. It's one of the most powerful apologetic, that's what we get to make an argument for, a defense for the New Testament and for Jesus Christ, the fulfillment of prophecy. You can't explain that. There's just no one who can explain that. Jesus was a historical figure, that's without any doubt. Even atheists, Dawkins and others, famous atheists, would say, yes, the evidence is there that Jesus of Nazareth lived, died, was in Jerusalem, was believed to be the fulfillment of prophecy of a Messiah deliverer. Yeah, that's right, that's right. And all the scriptures that foretold that. And so we see that now in this regard. We're not reading the other gospel accounts, but the Pharisees will try to get the crowds to be quiet. Hosanna was a shout of deliverance. It was a call for, and palm branches were a sign of peace, but also rebellion. And so there's some dangerous, potentially dangerous, that this could, and so the other gospel accounts, they'll try to hush that. And Jesus says, if the people don't cry out, the rocks are going to cry out. And so this is what, because that's what the Pharisees and the religious leaders were all about, is keeping their power. And they can't have rebellion against the Romans. And so anyway, the fulfillment of what God has planned from the beginning. Now, what also strikes me here is the obedience of the apostles, of the disciples. If I tell, if I tell you to, hey, there's a blue Ford Mustang that's parked over here by the police station. I'd like for you to go get it and drive it over here. What? You want me to? I mean, I want you to go get this colt that no one's ever ridden, and if anybody asks you, if anyone asks, you're going to, Robert said it's okay. He's already made the arrangements. And they do it. They do it. That's what obedience is. It doesn't always add up for us in our obedience. It's not always the most explained, rational, logical. We may not be able to always understand or explain it. Trust and obey. There is no other way to be happy in Jesus. Abraham, Moses, all the great examples we could look at, they did not understand fully what God was always telling them and asking them to do, but they trusted Him. And so I see that here in the example. I also see the sad irony that in less than a week, the same crowd that's shouting, Hosanna, is shouting, crucify Him. We go pretty quick from lover of God, defender of God, to what? Turning on God and denying.
How long did you say that was?
Well, less than a week. I mean, this is Sunday afternoon, and on sometime on Friday, Thursday, they're going to be doing this. So, 4 or 5 days is all it took for the crowd to turn. Yeah. Yeah. We're going to come back to that as well. Absolutely, Kathy. We've talked about didn't meet their expectations, the kind of Messiah, the kind of kingdom. But nonetheless, it's an interesting passage that you see the you see the humility once again. He's not on some grand parade of war chariots and horses. He's on a colt. It's pretty lowly here in that sense. I mean, it's how Jesus lived. Everything.
Also proves his being over nature, because you might get on a donkey or a horse that's never been ridden and it doesn't back.
Yeah.
But it also doesn't have any idea how to do what you want it to do,
Yeah.
to go forward or turn or anything.
Mm-hmm.
This one obviously went right where Jesus wanted it.
Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. Any thoughts that you think about triumphal entry? Anything stand out to you, or kind of we're going to look at a couple of stories here. That's one of them, but just kind of a great little story that we're very familiar with. Okay, let's skip down to Mark chapter 11 and pick up verse 12. The next day, as they were leaving Bethany, Jesus was hungry. Seeing in the distance a fig tree in leaf, he went to find out if it had any fruit. When he reached it, he found nothing but leaves, because it was not the season of figs. And so yet this fig tree is giving all the signs and evidence that it has fruit, and yet it's not. Then he said, "May no one ever eat fruit from you again." And the disciples heard him say it. And so you have the cursing of the fig tree. Later on, they're going to ask him more about that. But it's giving the signs, or it's showing that it's saying that it has fruit. It should have fruit, but in reality, in actuality, it doesn't. It's empty. It's hypocrisy. It's false advertising. And and Jesus had to deal a lot with that, with the religious leaders, and he doesn't want his apostles falling into that, because if you abide in me as the vine, you will bear fruit. Apart from me, you can what? Do nothing. If you don't bear fruit, what's it good for? He says. It's nothing. What do you do with a plant or a tree or fruit? It's not producing. It's just, you might as well pull it up and get rid of it. And that Jesus says that's what we'll do. And that's what we'll do to disciples and my followers who don't grow and mature. And so that is always an issue here that he says. Now look at verse 15. I want to get into this. On reaching Jerusalem, he entered the temple courts and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchant through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, Is it not written, my house will be called a house of prayer for all nations? But you have made it a den of robbers. The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking at a way to kill him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. And when evening came, Jesus and his disciples went out of the city. So we have a little bit of a little different side of Jesus here, don't we? In these two, Jesus is really never destructive of anything, but he does curse the fig tree. And here he gets physical. Right? I mean, we see some aggression. We see some anger. We've seen Jesus get angry before, but now he's gone and gotten physical a little bit. And he didn't go in there and say, would you please move this? Can I help you move it out of here? No, he overturned them and drove them out. And the other gospel accounts, John, he got a whip and drove them out of there. And so this is there's an earlier cleansing of the temple in his ministry. So this is a later one as well. So he's done this before. I was here and I told you not to do this, and you've done it again. Let's look real quick at the temple. So this is kind of a scale model. Of course, you've got the proper, this is the whole temple compound, the complex, if you will. This large structure. The proper temple, it was inside here, and that was divided, you remember, between the holy place and the most holy place. And inside the most holy place was the curtain, and only the high priest could go in there once a year on the Ark of the Covenant, on the cherubims, and so on. And so that was inside there. Only the priest could go in there and serve. Only the high priest could go into the most holy place. But then you've got these courts out kind of on the outside. You've got the men could be out here. This would kind of be an area. But then you also have the court of women. They could be in this area. They could not go any further. There was a warning sign, as well as Gentiles were warned here to not enter, and it was punishable by death. But they were given the outside. This would be a large area. The whole temple courtyard or complex would be about 2.5 football fields. So this is a large complex ground. You ever seen a bunch of people get on a football field? You get thousands, can't you? So there are thousands of people here. It is crowded. It is wall to wall, people touching. It is full. Jerusalem's population in the first century was about 50,000. It would swell up to about 250,000 during the Passover, because 3 times a year Jews would come to these great feasts. Passover was considered one of the greatest, and that was also where they would pay their tax. And that gets into, by the way, when Jesus is teaching the crowds, he's out here in the court of Gentiles. He's in this large open area. And so he's here teaching, and when these Jews would come from all over the Roman Empire, they are required to pay the temple tax. So here's what happened. The priest would say, you're from Egypt? Yeah, we've come here from Egypt. We live in Egypt. We're Jews. We want to worship the Lord, and we want to pay the tax. Yeah, not with that money. But we have a nice exchange table over here where we have some lovely people that will give you an exchange for the proper coinage that you can put in the temple, and they will explain the fine details of the interest of the rate exchange. You ever traveled overseas and changed money? You know, a great place you can get great exchange rate is at airports, right? You don't change money at airports, do you? No, so what they're doing is they're extorting people, is what they're doing. The people have to be there to pay a tax, right? So they're taking advantage of them by saying, you got to use this, and here's how you got to do that. You got to change it for the proper, and you'll pay the proper rate. Or they come in with their sacrifice, their sheep, or the poor. By the way, the poor could substitute doves. 2 doves, remember? By the way, Joseph and Mary, remember what they're what? They're poor. You're either rich or poor. There was no middle class. So they bring them in there, and the priest says, there's an ingrown hoof there on that foot. What are you talking about? Yeah, that's no good. That sheep's not going to work. But we have some gentlemen right over here that would love to sell you from their stock of sheep. I mean, has anything really, people, I don't care where you live, what century you live in, people will find what? Opportunities and advantages to what? To cheat. And when they can do it in the name of God, even better, right? Even, well, you know what I mean. They can get people to think, you know, and I'm not picking on them, I'm just using an example that's the first thing coming to mind. Christian Brothers Automotive, right? Well, hey, that's Christian Brothers. You go in there, there's a scripture, you know. Well, yeah, take your car in there too and let them give you a quote. I've done it before. Hey, no, I think I'll find another place. Then they might be honest, wonderful, but I'm just saying, you ever have people say, yeah, you go to someone says, hey, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian. I run my business. I'm a Christian man. Yeah, sometimes that's a red flag. Because people can be what? Lured into taken advantage of. And so, the priest would say, that's not going to work. Here's our prices. And so Jesus is seeing all this, and he's enraged. He's filled with anger. They're cheating, but you know what they're even doing even worse? What's he say here? The temple was to be a place for what? It was to be a place to draw near to God, to connect with the Creator. And do you notice who he specifically says it's to be? He is to be a house of prayer for the Jewish nation. Is that what your translation says? Oh, all nations. You mean God wanted everyone to have a chance to know Him and seek Him, right? Yes. Matter of fact, what were the Jews supposed to be for the nations, all the nations, when God chose them? To be an example and a what? This little light of mine. Didn't they sing that? They had to have a version of that they taught their kids in whatever we call it down here. The children time or the worship time. Pew Packers, some of them call it children's church, whatever. It's the same thing. So they were teaching their kids, they should have been teaching their Jewish kids, this little light of mine, I want to let it shine. So what? All the nations could know the Lord. But as Kathy and others said, they took that like God didn't. No, God was always concerned about all the nations. And so Jesus is upset that they are preventing people, hindering people from coming to worship and to know the Lord. Now, last time I checked on Sunday and tonight, we didn't have a bunch of sheep. I don't know, unless the Millers were picking up some for making the run to pick up some and bringing them. But I didn't see any sheep or money changing tables. So we don't ever have to worry about hindering people from worship and coming to know the Lord, right, in the church. No. Church can sometimes be a place that actually, sadly, hinders people. Have you ever seen somebody discouraged when they come to church? You know who makes the biggest impact for people, if they're going to come back and return, is how they're greeted and received in church. All the studies show. Preaching is important. That's good. Because I want it to be good. I want it to be impactful. Singing is good. Singing is impactful. Cleanliness. I mean, a lot of things that you need to have. Children's class. I mean, you need to have. But you know what always is up at the top is, was I received and welcomed? You ever been to a place and no one talks to you? It's kind of discouraging. And then not only that, when we get them in the church, do we continue to kind of put so much stuff in front of them and put a burden on them that they get discouraged and quit the church? No, I can't do that. You got to do this. You better stop doing this. We got to do this. Why you do that? You don't know that. Oh, come on now. We don't do it that way. Come on now. I've seen new Christians, new people that come to the church. some members just turn them upside down after a couple of weeks and a couple of months, and they get discouraged. And they march themselves into whatever ministry or Bible class or whatever class, or and sometimes they can get so discouraged and judged, and that they give up. And so that's important for us as a church and as individual members. Not only that, how the church should be a place of prayer. And so, I think we do a good job that at Manford here, in our corporate times of prayer. And, and I appreciate the elders and I, we've talked about it. They kind of got away from that this past year, in the shepherd prayers and the time of praying on each Sunday with members, even for ourselves, the elders and myself. We kind of got a little bit off on that, didn't we, Leon? A little bit, and we all recognized it about halfway through. We probably shouldn't have stopped doing that. And so, the church is a place and a house of prayer and worship, and so God's people need to be identified and through and through with that. And so he says that's God's house is to connect with Him and know Him and be a place of prayer. And anyway, any thoughts or comments or anything you see out of this passage? Because the things that Jesus gets upset, angry about, don't you think we should kind of make note of that? Because sometimes what we can get upset about in the church makes us mad, furious. They did this, and well, is that something that Jesus? Is that something? What gets Him upset? Well, don't you think that we ought to note that? And this is one of those examples. Any thoughts, comments, anything that stand out to you here? I think, again, what does it teach us about Jesus? The things that upset Him should upset us. The things that He's focused on and a priority should be our focus and priority. And that should be kind of how we look at this here. Okay, skip over to, we didn't read the end of by the way, verse 20 of chapter 11. So Jesus cursed it in the morning when He's coming on Monday morning, the fig tree. Now they've come back the next day. So when evening came, verse 19, the disciples went out of the city. This is Monday. Jesus will come in, cleanse the temple, and that's I can imagine He'll do some teaching, but then He's going to leave. So in the morning, so this would be Tuesday, they go along and they saw the fig tree withered. Peter will remember it, and so anyway, so skip down here to chapter 12. Look at chapter 12 here. We're almost out of time. Verse 13. Later they went. They sent some of the Pharisees and Herodians. That's the family and the dynasty of Herod, working together with the Pharisees. I'll tell you, they hated the Pharisees hated Herod, but they're working together because the enemy of my enemy, right? And so they come to catch Him in His words, and they said to Him, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity." They don't believe that, do they? No. That's flattery. That's false praise. And out of they're lying. You aren't swayed by others because you pay attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. Again, they don't believe any of that. Is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? Should we pay it or shouldn't we? Okay, so why is that a trap question for Jesus?
Because if He says no, then the Herodians are going to get Him for not paying taxes.
Yeah, if He says don't pay taxes,
If he says yes, then Pharisees.
Yeah, it's treason. If he says yes, I mean, how do the Jews view the Romans? They're occupying them. And that matter of fact, there already have been rebellions among the Jews, right? Herod's already had, Pilate's had to put some down already. He's been warned from Rome. And so that's why they keep the peace. The Pharisees are in cahoots in that sense with Herod and the Romans because it keeps their power. Pretty much the Romans say, just don't rebel and pay your taxes and you can worship however you want. They even told the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin, you can judge your people, you can punish your people, you just can't execute capital offenses. That has to be from us. The Romans knew. Can't let people take that in their own hands as far as killing people. So, but nonetheless, if Jesus says pay your taxes, how's that going to make him look with the people? So they think they've got him. Yeah, Matt?
Even Simon, one of his apostles, was a zealot.
Yeah.
Which is a specific group of people that were in rebellion against the Romans.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of his own apostles, and the Chosen, has depicted that well, and so we've seen that. And so what Jesus does is, it's just, obviously it's who Jesus is, and it's a landmine, but he just steps right over it and turns it around on them. He did that similar. We didn't read the account of John's baptism. By what authority was it? He did a similar thing. Was it from God or from man? Well, if he says it's from God, the Pharisees rejected. They killed John. They rejected John. Herod killed him. But if he says, that it's not from God, the people believed John to be a prophet as he was, so he did the same thing, kind of turned the tables on them. He does it here. He says, Jesus knew their what? Hypocrisy. That's why I said it's a lie. They don't believe what they just said. Why are you trying to trap me? Bring me a denarius and let me look at it. Love how he just invites people, the object lesson, bringing them in. They brought the coin. And he asked them, whose image is on it? And whose inscription? Caesar's, they replied. Then Jesus said to them, give back to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God, what is God's. And they were amazed. What's this tell us about Jesus? Okay, yeah. And beyond that, though, what is it? What's he concerned about? What he specifically says about paying taxes and?
He's more concerned about spiritual things.
Which kingdom is Jesus focused on? Because Herod and the Romans, do they have a kingdom? Yeah. And the Jews live in that kingdom, don't they? Yeah. And Jesus is not calling them to march necessarily and overthrow. He's not saying go in there and kill them all. And, he's not. What's Jesus' focus? Whose kingdom? God. Now, we're called to be good citizens, and we're called to be, pay our taxes, and that's respects the authority that is given, that God's established that. And it doesn't mean the government, and doesn't mean that the leaders, when Peter would write in 1 Peter, obey the government, governing authority. The Romans and Nero. What kind of a Roman emperor was Nero? He was a terrible man. But he says, hey, you be exemplary citizens. You be standout citizens. And because ultimately, your focus is where? It's not the kingdoms of men. But sometimes, if we're not careful, as Christians, we can get so focused on the kingdoms of men. And I'm not saying it's wrong to get into politics. I'm not saying it's wrong to run for office and campaign and vote and to share your opinion. I'm not saying that. But have you seen people become so consumed with that kind of stuff sometimes? Where's the kingdom of God at? The kingdom of God is the priority. Kings are going to come, kingdoms are going to come and go. And whatever we live in, whatever form of government Christians find themselves in, they're called to be faithful. Now, if the kingdom of man says disobey God, do something that is against God's will, if they ask us to, what I preach on Sunday morning, what the Romans say, you can worship any gods you want, but what do you got to do? Once a year, you got to go in there and pinch that incense, and you got to put it on that altar, and you got to say what? Caesar is the Lord supreme. And that was the problem, wasn't it? And so the Christians said, a lot of them said what? No, we won't do that. Well, we'll make your life miserable if you don't. And they did. And so we're not saying when it goes against God's will what asking us to do, but outside of that, we got to keep our focus where it needs to be. And I think sometimes we forget our final citizenship is it's heaven, and so we can get so focused on changing the kingdoms of men that we forget and ignore the kingdom of God. And I've seen that happen, and it's always an ever-present danger and challenge for us in the church to be careful with that. And so, any thoughts on that? Comments? Yeah. Be careful, right, Rob? Be careful. I opened it up a little bit, but yeah, go ahead, Matt.
One of the names of Jesus is King of Kings.
Yeah.
So God first and the others are under him. So if Jesus says one thing and the other king says the other, you go with Jesus.
Yeah, we go with Jesus. Yeah. But barring that, obey them. Pay your taxes. Well, they're wasting it. Well, they're spending it on things that I don't agree with, or things that might even be bad. Just be a good citizen. Pay your taxes. Be responsible. Don't participate indirectly in evil. We understand that. I'm not going to go and, but.
It goes back to 2 Corinthians 4:18. The things that are seen are temporary. The things that are unseen
Yeah.
are eternal. And even science is finding more and more things that are unseen that the world can't function without.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to close on what Matt said. I only have a minute, but we don't have time to look at it. I was just going to, it's a great, so Matt, you did really good there transitioning. The greatest commandment, Jesus in chapter 12, verse 28, brings them back to the two most, which of the commandments is the greatest, most important? They love to debate that among all the hundreds of commands. Jesus says, I'll tell you. And he tells them number one, then he gives them number two. Actually, it's not 1 and 2. It's kind of 1A, and 1B. This is the most important one. Wait a minute, I thought all God's commands were, well, no, there's some priority of importance because they'll catch the other ones. The most important one is this. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. This is the second one. Love your neighbor as yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. He would say in the other accounts, the law and the prophets all hang or suspend. What do you want? When you want to suspend something from something, what do you want that main thing to be that you're suspending it from? Secure. It's the foundation. Could you say in one sense it's the most important thing? Yeah, you better say that. Because what happens if you think, no, they're all equally as important. I want to make sure the things we're hanging down on that. What had better be the first priority? If you're going to suspend on something, you better make sure that foundation of the house is what? Solid. Well, wait a minute, I want the most beautiful kitchen in the world. That's the most important thing. Yeah. Not if it washes away or cracks and falls apart. Your house does. Now, does it mean the kitchen's not important? No, it's very important.
The thing is, if we love God and love our neighbors the way we're supposed to, then we won't cause any harm.
Yeah, that's right. And so he concludes there by saying, this is where it's at. Quotes Deuteronomy 6, Leviticus 19, and that when we do this, when we don't do this from the right heart, what do you have? You have empty ritual. You have legalism. You have hypocrisy. You have vain worship. When people are doing things without a pure heart or to love their neighbor, they're doing it to love their neighbor, it is an empty ritual. And so, anyway, we don't have time. We're out of time. It's a great ending there to kind of what Matt Lowe was talking about. So, all right, we'll pick up with some other stories out of this last week of Jesus' life here and get into the Passion. So, all right. Appreciate y'all being here.
And I stand in awe of you. I stand in awe of you, Holy God.